Welcome to the Unreal BootCamp lesson on updating user entities. In this lesson, we'll be updating the user entity that we created in the previous lesson to help track the user's progress in the example game's Horde mode. When invoking the update entity request, we need to supply the following parameters: the entity ID, the entity type, the updated JSON data, the ACL, and the version. It's important to note that the JSON data that's being passed in will completely replace the entity data that's on the brainCloud servers. Click the JSON response to familiarize yourself with the data that the request will return. Open Xcode and navigate to the network callback.h file. Declare a pair of public callback methods for updating the user entity. Navigate to the network manager.h file. Declare a public method called updateUserEntityData. This method takes in the entity ID, the entity type, and an f-string that represents the formatted JSON data. Declare a pair of private callback functions that will be used for updating the user entity. Make sure to mark these functions as a U function with a callback category. Finally, declare a private network callback handler object called mUpdateUserEntityDataCallback. This will be passed in when we make the brainCloud request. Navigate to the networkmanager.cpp file. In the constructor, bind the private callback methods used for updating the user entity to the mUpdateUserEntityDataCallback handler success and failure delegates. Implement the updateUserEntityData method. First, check to see if the user is authenticated. If the user is not authenticated, log a meaningful error message. And if set, invoke the callback's onUpdateUserEntityDataRequest failed method. If the user is authenticated, declare an ACL local variable with a value of none. Then invoke the brainCloud's entity services update entity request, passing in the entity ID, the entity type, the JSON data, the ACL, and the address of the mUpdateUserEntityDataCallback object as the arguments. Scroll down to the bottom. Implement the onUpdateUserEntityDataCallback method. In the body, log the response data. If the callback is set, invoke the callback's onUpdateUserEntityDataRequest completed method. Next, implement the onUpdateUserEntityDataError method. Log an error message along with the JSON error. If the callback is set, invoke the callback's onUpdateUserEntityDataRequest failed method. Navigate to the spaceshooter GameModeBase.cpp file. Scroll down until you find the next level method. This method is invoked when the user completes a level in Horde mode. Here we'll invoke the mUserData's setLevelComplete method, pass in the level index value. If the return value is true, that means this is the first time the user has been in that level, and we need to update the user entity on brainCloud. To do this, invoke the network manager's updateUserEntityData method, pass in the user data's entity ID, entity type, and the formatted JSON data. There's one more method that we need to implement this logic in. Scroll down and find the onBossHasExploded method. Invoke the mUserData's setLevelCompleted method. If the user entity needs to be synchronized with brainCloud, invoke the network manager's updateUserEntityData method. Click the Run button to build the project and launch the Unreal editor. Once the Unreal editor opens, run the game. Click Horde mode. Notice that the buttons for the last 3 levels are disabled. We're going to play the game and try and beat level 1 to update the user entity data. Playback has been sped up to save time. We've beaten level 1 and the update entity request was made to keep brainCloud up to date with our progress. Pause the game and click Main menu. Click Horde mode. Notice that the level 2 button is enabled. Stop the game and rerun it. Click Horde mode. Notice again that the level 2 button is enabled. The user entity data that we loaded on startup included the updated changes from our previous session. Attaching an email identity to the user's profile is the next lesson in the Unreal BootCamp.